Everyone has been having a good day so far. It's the weather. Every time I do a webinar, I do mention the weather. It's a classic start to a webinar, but particularly at this time of year when I'm sure everyone that has been working in school with all the nice weather that's been happening certainly wants to see some of that weather continue over the summer break. So fingers crossed it will do. Okay, right. We are going to kick off. So again, welcome to everyone who's joined us today for our Switch Off and Stay Sharp this summer webinar. I'm Marianne. If you've been on one of the webinars before, you probably know who I am. I am the head of resourcing and marketing here at Envision, and I'm joined today by Harwinder, who is our resourcing consultant here at Envision Education. So welcome, Harwinder. Hello.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Great to have you. Thanks so much for joining. So, today, as I say, Hawindra and I are going to be discussing how to switch off and stay sharp this summer. We're just starting with, you can see a QR code on our first slide here. We're just drawing your attention to it now because this QR code takes you to a link where you can provide us feedback or leave us a Google review or visit our website. And the reason we're bringing it up now, we will talk about it at the end, is because we really, really do value your feedback. We are going to be having a bit of a pause, a break over the summer, and kick off again with our webinars in September. So it's a perfect chance for, if this is your first one or you've been on a few, for you to leave your feedback or write a review and also give us any ideas of what you'd like to see in September. So that link will be there again at the end, but we really would appreciate your feedback if you've got time to give it. So let's kick off. So, first of all, just a little bit of housekeeping. As usual, if you've been on before, we are recording the session, which means we ask for microphones off, cameras off, and we'll see if we've got some time for questions at the end. So, yeah, we'd really appreciate that's the case. If you do have any questions as we go along, feel free to put them into the chat here on Zoom, and we'll have a look at those at the end as well. Excellent. So, first of all, it's just a little bit of an introduction to this. We're looking at what would you most be looking forward to over the summer break. So we've given a few options here: a lion, a pub garden, a silent house, or reading something that isn't about children. For me, it's at least A and B. I'd love both of those. How about you, Harwinder? What would you be choosing out of them?
Do you know what? I think mine's also a little bit of both. I would say A and C. So a lion and definitely a silent house. Just having that
Silent
peace.
House is a dream.
That's what I would want for sure.
Absolutely. If anyone wants to put their options into the chat there, please do so. But we thought it'd just be a nice way to introduce this webinar. There are plenty of things I'm sure that everyone is looking forward to over the break. But we wanted to, yeah, just touch on that as a bit of an introduction. And I hope, Harwinder, you do get some lines and a silent house
I
over the
hope
break
so
as
too.
well. Excellent. Right then. So, oh, forgive me, I've jumped ahead. So, what this webinar is intending to do is really, we really do know it's very difficult to switch off during the summer break, but at the same time, it is actually quite a long time to be out of school, to be out of work, and you want to feel ready for September. So you've come from, I mean, and this half of the term has really been quite long, and so you're probably quite overstimulated. Tired beyond words is what my partner actually used. He works in a school. I love to bring him up because he's great for content when we're putting these webinars together, as Harwinder definitely knows. And actually, it's not about thinking about September now. It's preparing yourself for the break. As I say, it's about, depending on when you finish, 5.5 to 6 weeks, preparing yourself with tips and ideas of what you can do at the start of the break and things that you can do throughout the break to get ready for September. So it's not CPD, it's not training, it's light touch. And Harwinder in particular is a fantastic team member in really reflecting on how to sort of, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, reflect and switch off, which is why she's a brilliant guest for me to have on
Oh,
and doing this. She's always providing tips on this, and I think really lives this much more than
oh, thank
myself. So
you.
she's a brilliant person, as I say, to be talking about this as well. So I suppose it's an opportunity just to breathe, reflect, and gently
Mhm.
take back a little bit of control at the start of the holiday so things don't get overwhelming towards the end. So it is things like looking forward to the things we've mentioned here, a lion, a pub garden, a silent house, reading something that is about children. You might be going on holiday. For some of you, it might actually be really full on. You could be parents, so you finished up in school and now you've got to spend all the summer holidays with your kids as well. But that's also really valuable time that you want to make the most of as well, without letting school and work and the return to September get in the way. So, moving on to our next bit, which Harwinder is going to talk about, is how to actually rest without guilt. Harwinder.
Yeah. So I think this is the best way to start it because it's sort of finding out, the why behind it's very how important it is to make sure that you're not feeling that guilt and how to actually rest. Obviously, there's no perfect way to do that, but this is obviously just a couple of tips and tricks and how it can look like for you. Because obviously many school staff, they have a hard time switching off. Your sort of work, your role and the industry that you're in is so tied to just keep on going, being useful, putting a smile on your face, and just being a carer basically for the children. And then when the summer break comes, you feel like you need to catch up or something. And that usually leads to you doing a little bit less and not so much about feeding yourself with that fuel that you need to continue and then get back for September. And then the guilt part is you just acting like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And then you have that little voice in your head that's saying, no, you should be doing something, to rest up, etc. And that can come from obviously like social media. Obviously, we all have our phones, looking at someone who's doing cooking videos, learning a lot of things or traveling, etc. Everyone gets holiday blues, but I feel like you get FOMO from looking at your social media as well. And then also, you're just so used to being around a lot of noise and stimulation. So then when you are resting, it just feels a little bit abrupt or unfamiliar. So the ways that you can sort of build that into your summer is be intentional. So intentionally delete, or you can mute as well, your emails or anything like that, or even social media if you want to put a timer on it, WhatsApp groups, or you exchange like numbers from your work colleagues. Maybe you don't really want to be speaking to them during the summer holidays, if they are sort of connected to a different part of your life, and then create your own version of your rest. Like I said, it's different for each person. So it doesn't have to be journaling or going for walks or yoga. It can be literally you taking a nap, spending time with your children, your pets, etc. And watching the telly. Netflix is obviously a big one for me. That's how I rest. So I'm sure a lot of people can agree with that. And just think to yourself, like, what feels good for me right now? You can take it hour by hour, day by day as well, and it looks different for everybody. So don't think to yourself of, oh, what would somebody else be doing? I should be doing that. Don't think that, just think what feels good for me. Have a day where you're literally doing nothing, because you have no expectations for yourself. And it could just be one day. If you still feel like, oh, I should be doing something, okay, maybe that is what you need in that moment, but still have a day or a couple of hours where you're literally just doing nothing, because you will thank yourself for it. And then a big part of this, you do not need to earn rest. You deserve it regardless of wherever you're working, whether you have children or not, you have other responsibilities compared to somebody else. Everybody deserves to rest. You don't have to hit targets just because some people are a bit of a perfectionist. They need to do their work beforehand, but you're still able to do that. You can make sure that you have that time for yourself, and then you'll be ready for September.
Absolutely. I love what you said there. It's like your own version of
Yeah,
rest. And that
definitely.
works so differently for different people.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it is very different to me. I think, any member of the team here as well. I think that's really, really important. And then not sort of trying to mirror what someone else does. You gave a really
Yeah,
other, good way of
yeah.
saying that there. And these are things I need to think about myself, and make sure I switch on.
Hmm.
It's what we all
Hmm.
can use. And I think that
Yeah,
it's really important when you have such an intense time, if you work in a role within education, and then you have this big chunk, which is absolutely deserved, very much
yeah.
needed, but it will feel, and a lot of people carry that guilt and thinking, I've not rested enough or I've not done enough. It can go both ways,
Exactly.
can't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Good stuff. Right. So I'm going to chat just a little bit here on how to reflect and reset without overdoing it. So we want to rest. We've made that really, really clear. But at the same time, rest coupled with some reflection in order to reset is really important. And again, this is light touch stuff. It's not trying to reflect on everything of the year. You've had a big year. It's been a really busy year for anyone working in education, especially this half of the summer term. So why reflection helps is it means that you would stop sort of carrying any unnecessary weight into September. You want to sort of look at what might have drained you or what actually also energized you. It's not necessarily a negative reflection. It's really pulling out what worked well and what will you carry into next year, like what's worth repeating. So even Harwinder mentioned there, it's not necessarily about sort of, journals or color coding or making a big plan on it. It's just about having that time to really think about what was important to you, whether it was something that went well or didn't go well, because you've got the downtime to do it rather than jumping onto another task at school or getting home to, sort out what you need to for the evening, get on with the children, get on with your social life, whatever it might be. So it's using that time that's important because it also complements your rest by being able to reflect and get ready for September. So ways that you can do this, you can think about things like, what are three things that really worked for you this year? This could be things like, any examples. I mean, I've pulled some out from candidates and people that work for us already speak about, including my partner, because he's obviously an asset for me. We talk about, things like keeping a visual timetable is something that's been mentioned that's worked really
Yeah.
well for people. Trying to use different approaches to transitions for people. So I think particularly at this time of year, people really remember the last sort of, well, again, it's been a really long half of the term, but really remember some of the more challenging things or the things that actually worked. So transitions is really important for this time of year and think about what worked. Did it work if you did step back from activities or join particular activities that were in school that were a benefit to you, the pupils, and the wider school community? Just have a think about what really worked. What were your successes? What day of work did you really love and why? And these are actually questions that we ask when we're interviewing candidates because we want to know what was important, what's worked well and what didn't work well even over an academic year. And it's a really great way to just, sort of take a breath and think, that was really good. I love that day. Why did I? Or I love that particular activity. Why did I love that?
Yeah.
At the same time, as I say, it's looking at things that might have felt a bit too heavy and too draining. Now, this is a long list. We know that there's going to be a long list here. So there are going to be, maybe the more obvious things that you could think about that could be, if there's a lot of admin work or there are a lot of pupils that I've been supporting, there's been some challenging situations on a particular day. You need to just as much reflect on the positives, do reflect on the things that didn't feel so positive. But again, it's using that to take into September to potentially go about things in a different way or make changes, seek advice, have the right conversations. And that's why it's important. It's actually quite difficult to do these things at the time.
Mhm.
And for a number of reasons, we can all be emotionally charged, particularly when we're tired, particularly when we maybe feel a bit of burnout. We want to really reflect on, yeah, actually, now I've had time to think about it. This isn't something that was great for me. And I feel confident in thinking about why and talking about why that isn't. And also convince yourself that it was okay. You don't have to convince yourself. You're telling yourself why that wasn't all right and what you need. And again, that is for you in your own version, again, of reflection. It doesn't need to mirror and shouldn't actually mirror at all anyone else's version of that. And these are not also signs of strengths and weaknesses. And I really want that point to be clear because it's how you manage anything that might have felt a bit too heavy and draining and how you take that into September. So then it's then leading to what changes you could make for September. So thinking about three things based on your positive and negatives, seeing how they line up and thinking, right, it could be heading into September, getting ahead of the day game, having a meeting with your teacher or other teachers that might be in the school, head teachers, etc. It could be making a log of the things that you thought about this year. So when they come up again, you remember that you reflected on it and you might find that you approach it differently or seek advice or support to do so. It could also be setting certain boundaries for yourself when things have felt
Mm.
overloaded.
Yeah.
And if that feels that it's a bit too much, again, speaking to colleagues or other members of staff, to seek that advice. You are there to support the children, but your colleagues and senior management are there to make sure that you are happy and supported in work. So do think about it that way, and this is a good time to do it. So again, it's certainly not that you need to fix everything. You're not going to be able to from just reflection, but having the time and the headspace to do that alongside your rest when you've had time to really think about things is certainly what we would recommend. So yeah, I think that's me for reflecting and resetting without overdoing it, as we say. So Harwinder is going to talk to us a little bit about light touch learning, only if you want to.
Yeah. Um, but I definitely want to say with the reflection as well, that it's almost a way to fuel yourself as well,
Yeah,
of like you reflect on saying, oh my God, I did a whole academic year, or I did this many months at the
yeah,
school and I feel really proud of myself. You sort of ignite that fire of like, oh, I actually can't wait to go back and I do
yeah.
deserve this rest. So that's something that people don't really think about, but it does help and it does work as well. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
and
think
also with
that's really actually, as I say,
yeah.
it's looking at the in that way. And we're bulldozing into light touch learning, but I think that's the point. It's like
Yeah.
looking at those things that you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
reflect on and thinking, actually, then there's bits of here that aren't necessarily going to be directly
Yeah.
related to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
training and development. Harwinder's
Yeah.
going to tell us all about
Yeah. Yeah,
it.
thank you. So with this, obviously, it's only if you want to, and it is light touch learning. So it's it's completely optional for you to do a little bit of learning over the summer. And again, the key point is as that it looks different for everybody. So for some people, learning is very enjoyable. They have a thirst for knowledge, so they want to continue it. And for others, it's not what they want. So it's completely what you want to. But if you are somebody who really wants to continue learning, and just have that thirst for knowledge, then there's a couple of tips that we can give to you. So definitely do it in sort of a micro doses. Don't obviously overload yourself because obviously it's about resting. It's the summer holidays, you know. So you can pick like 1 to 2, 3 things that you want to do. Don't overwhelm yourself. And one thing that we were talking about is you can think of it as small atomic habits that you can do every single day. So let's say if you do 1% each day, that does add up. And by the time it's the end of the summer, you will have whatever it is that you were learning, you will have that knowledge by the end of it. And 1% of your time during the day is basically nothing. You could probably, instead of going on your phone, or if it is on your phone, you could be doing that instead. And you can also just save those ideas. You can write them down, or you can just ponder about them for a little bit. You do not have to do them now because obviously this is the start of the summer holidays. Obviously at Envision, we do have some courses ourselves that we do, which are completely free available to you, obviously, if you are active with us. So please feel free to have a look at them. You can get a certificate at the end. And again, you do not have to do it all in one go. We've got a plethora of those. So please feel free to have a look at those. And as we are also doing many webinars as well, please have a look at the previous ones. Watching a video is always really good as well, because sometimes you can have it on in the background. You don't, obviously, people learn in different ways. I'm the type of person, I can have a podcast on and I can be doing cooking. So I could be learning a new recipe and also learning about, I don't know, the history of India or something like that. So, some people can learn in 2 different ways. So it doesn't mean that, basically, again, it comes back to the point, it looks differently for everyone. Another thing is the learning doesn't have to do with just your career. It could be you want to learn a different language, you want to learn something that's related to cooking or your religion, or something to better yourself, or something that's fun, like doing crochet or embroidery or something like that. It's a skill that maybe you could learn. So it looks differently for everybody. Again, the key point is that it's light touch learning. So you do 1% every day. And if you think to yourself, I just did that 1% and I really hated it, then you don't have to. It looks differently for everyone. Visiting a new museum, if you're more of a practical learner, you can go out into the world, reading, all that sort of stuff. The biggest part is that it should be fun for you and you should be relaxing. If you get stressed out, put it down and then do something else for yourself.
Excellent. I really, really like that. And as I say, I think it's again, you're almost going back to your own version of learning and it really not
Yeah.
having to be related to education. It's a time, again, you deserve it. You've been working hard, you're dedicating your career and your time to
Yeah.
education and learning for
Yeah.
pupils. And at the same time, you learn a lot, you do a lot with that, but it's really important to take that for yourself. And it's hard to fit this stuff in. And also, it can be things that don't necessarily have necessarily a headline or a label of learning. It can be doing something you love and building on it. Again, like my partner loves gardening, and he's already talked about what we're going to do with the patio.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you learn that, you get that ready
Yeah,
for
that's
the
your
summer. That'll
resting.
yeah, I'm going to be there at the summer going, how's that learning gone? Is the
Yeah.
patio done? But rest and relax, don't worry about
Yeah.
it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so it works differently for everyone. And I think also summer naturally is like this. Obviously, in education, there's a lot of, you've got all this time off, and that gets used, thrown around a lot without the understanding of all the time and effort spent during
Yeah,
term.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a high expectation, but naturally things do generally wind down a bit over the summer. It's not just, education staff and people working in schools have all this time off. General industries, market sectors, they all slow
Yeah.
down because people are on holidays, they're doing different things. So whilst you have that
Yeah.
time off, you're not on your own, just in a sort of a corner, a group of people that has this, and everyone is, jealous that you've got this time off because it's absolutely deserved. And I think that can
Yeah.
sometimes feel
Yeah.
like you have a pressure to do something and make the most of
Mm.
it. You absolutely don't. It's in line with still what happens during the summer months.
Yeah.
Light touch bits really do make a difference. So
Yeah,
excellent.
definitely.
Nice one. Right, so just a couple of quick wins for a calmer September. We know what we want to, do over the summer. We want to rest, we want to reflect, potentially some light touch learning. These are things that if you've been through, a few academic years, you may have done it differently each summer. It might depend. But getting ready for September is always a good thing to think about at the start and not leaving it till the end. This can be whether, again, you work in education, we've got children who are going back to school. There's also that to think about, trying to get that school uniform at the very end of the
Yeah.
holiday when they've grown a foot since they finished and
hmm
you got the first
hmm
bits. So these are just things to kind of, again, this is almost how you might manage the learning, little things you could do each
Yeah.
week will set yourself up for, so not everything is left at the end. So again, it's almost preparing your mindset. You don't need to fix or do everything in week one. So we've touched on that quite a bit. A rested you is better than a rushed you. So
Yeah.
taking that time to rest, but making a bit of a plan will really work. Prepping your space for September. So these can be things
Mm.
like making sure, and these are things that won't feel too heavy doing at the start. So, you've got the key,
Exactly. Yeah.
key school dates, for instance, popping them in your
Yeah.
diary, birthdays of staff members and everything else, because those seem to get, quite a
Yeah.
lot. Things like getting your work bag ready. If you're doing a bit of shopping, it might be, looking at things like, if you've got things that, new clothing and things you might wear for September, getting excited about those things, but getting them a bit ready and thinking that's September stuff. But again, it's also then maybe sort of getting ready for setting up for that rhythm that will pick up at the end of August where you're going, oh,
hmm
the countdown's on. It's 2 weeks, it's 10 days, it's 7 days. Right, now's the inset days. Now the children are back.
Yeah.
Right, so it's just getting ahead of that. So knowing your first, couple of days timetable,
hmm
you'll have all of this, but just looking over it again and feeling that
Yeah.
you're ready and bearing in mind the other things we've spoken about in that. So things that you might want to do differently, things that you'll approach differently, things that didn't work for you that you might need support on for this year. That gives you the opportunity to take your reflections and think, how am I going into September? Then, even thinking about some of your boundaries, this can be personal or work-based as well.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that in an education role, but again, it's about having those conversations with a colleague, with senior management to really understand if there is anything that is going to actually make you feel better supported and really looking forward to going into September. It's worth popping that email in. It's worth scheduling a meeting in or having a quick 5-minute chat, however that looks. We know the start of the term is busy, so especially with it being September to start the academic year. So having that time at the end of August, putting, those couple of emails together, arranging those chats could be really, really
hmm
beneficial. So the last one that we kind of really like is a bit of a September reset playlist. We were having a
Yes.
bit of a laugh about that, about songs that we would include
Yeah.
on our
Yeah.
back to work playlists. However, have you got any that would be on your back to work playlist, getting you
Do you
geared
know what?
up?
After speaking to a couple of colleagues, obviously they said "Eye of the Tiger," but I actually thought of one myself as well. "Shine" by Take That. I actually,
Oh,
that song does get me motivated.
you
So
know
I was
what? That song always has done. Always like take that Gary Barlow, but I've always loved Mark Owen and his singing, and I do love Shine. He's
same,
the best
same.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm adding
But
that to
I
my
would
playlist.
probably, yeah, I would definitely choose that one.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, my usual, if anyone knows it, it would be like, I'll put some Bruce Springsteen on. I will maybe
Nice.
put, I'll put a bit of everything on, but Bruce Springsteen always gets me motivated, gets me a bit excited, a
Yeah,
bit of born to
yeah.
run because I'll be running into work and ready to get back to it. So that would be for me. So,
Some good
great.
choices.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we're just going to wrap it up a little bit here now. How Winder is going to touch on, well, I think
Yeah.
mainly what we're taking away from this today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the points that obviously we mentioned was about why resting matters and not feeling guilty about it, reflection, the light touch learning, obviously, and then we've just gone over the small wins for September. The main takeaway I would say for anybody and also ourselves as well, you deserve this rest. That is the main thing. It's been a very hectic academic year for everybody, no matter how it looks for them. You definitely deserve this. And for in terms of preparing for September, there's no right way to do it. So do what looks right to you. Make sure, if you are wanting to do this, invite reflection in, think about, things that you're going to let go this summer in preparation for September, things that you're holding on to, and also talk, have that inner voice as well with yourself of what are you looking forward to in September, and you could have a time frame, in the beginning of September, maybe you're just not September, the summer, you're just going to do whatever you want to, be a little bit more active. And then if you want to have a little bit more reflection in the 2 weeks that are left before September, do that for yourself. The only thing I will say in terms of closing the webinar is that, again, going back to the first point, do what feels right for you. It looks completely different for everyone. If you're somebody who wants to sort of marinate in bed, have some really good junk food and binge watch a Netflix drama, do that. If you're somebody who wants to join the gym or go for a run, do swimming, cooking, spend more time with the children, be a little bit more of a social butterfly, then do that. You are completely well deserving of this rest, and it looks completely different to everyone. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think you've said it absolutely perfectly. And that is the key takeaway with it. And
Yeah,
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 thank you very much for that, Harwinder. So, and again, I think the main thing being there is no right way. We just hope this is given
yeah.
a few ideas, a few of our suggestions and what we think, but also really, I think, and Harwinder's hit the nail on the head there, making sure it's your
Mm,
time, making the most of it in the way you want. And that doesn't mean
yes,
anything
exactly.
apart from what you know because you know yourself. Excellent.
Exactly.
Okay. Right, so we are at the end here. We're going to run out of time, I think, for questions. But we hope everyone's enjoyed the session and thank you so much for joining us. Here's our lovely little QR code again that takes you to options to leave a Google review for us or leave feedback directly on our webinars. And please, if you've got any ideas of what you would like, please take a look. Please leave that for us. It also has a link to our website. You can see all our other webinars on there as well,
Mhm.
if you haven't seen them already, as we've mentioned. So again, we really, really appreciate it. If you've got the time this summer amongst your rest, relaxation, reflection, and
Yeah.
getting ready for September, we'd love to hear from you. As I say, we're taking a break over the summer. Our webinars will return in September. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a very restful and fabulous summer holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.